excited to see you too. But I'm really excited about our guest today.
Me too. Former colleague and good friend, Mr. Craig
Yes.
DeLarge is here. This is going to be exciting.
Yes,
Fantastic.
indeed.
So before we get started, I'm going to tell the people about Craig DeLarge, right? So Craig is the author of The Wise Working Handbook, a book that challenges us to be strategic, positive, and bring more awareness into how we lead and live. Over the last 3 decades, Craig has built a career at the intersection of business, psychology, and digital innovation. He has held leadership roles in marketing and learning at companies like Johnson& and Johnson, Novo Nordisk, and Takeda, and he's taught at several universities, including Thomas Jefferson University and Temple University in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Craig is also the founder of the Digital Mental Health Project, where he explores how technology can be used to promote psychological well being. In our
Yes.
conversation today, we'll talk about his journey, the idea of working wisely in a digital age, and how we can all
Mhm.
cultivate more wisdom in the way we approach our personal and professional lives. I love this. Hi, Craig.
Hey, it's good
This
to be here. Thanks for the
great to
invitation.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks for being here, Craig. It's really wonderful that we could spend time and dig into some of your insights and some of the things you're seeing now with coaching young
Yes.
professionals, and of course your the Wise Working Handbook, which I think every young professional especially should read. There's just packed with all kinds of great wisdom and
Thank you.
advice. Um, in the book, in the Wise
Yeah.
Working Handbook, you
Yes.
emphasize the importance of clarity and purpose, almost like a
Yes.
personal mission. So what are some practical steps young professionals should consider when they want
Mhm.
to align their work choices with their long-term career vision?
Oh,
Especially when some of those opportunities might seem limited at first. So what are some of
yeah.
those practical steps that should be considered?
Yeah. So, a question that I often lead with when I'm coaching anybody, and this applies to young people, obviously, is if they say to me, I'm not sure what I want to do in my career. What I'll say to them is, what is the evil in the world or a society that you want to play a role in resolving? Another way you might ask that is, what are the problems in the world or the society that if you project 5, 10, 20, 40 years from now, a good career if you live to 100 is 80 years. So what do you want to, what is the problem you want to spend your life, energy, time, talent, relationship, skill, experience resolving? And then what I'll say is, okay, once you've kind of gotten a sense of what that problem, challenge, form of evil is, don't just think, what do I want? But go back, talk to your family, talk to your community. It may change, but once you have that frame, now you begin to know better what companies are working on that problem, what industries are working on that problem, what networks and ecosystems, what schools, right? That kind of gives you some focus now.
I
And
really
then I
like
say,
that.
okay,
I know, I
yes, it's
really
that
like
anchor.
that. I mean, you're talking about defining your purpose very early on at the start when
Yeah,
many people don't do that until decades later and they've
yes,
worked in various fields and they
yes,
just don't know where they're going. So,
right.
as a young person who's had limited
Mhm.
experience, contextually, right?
Yes.
How do they pinpoint the problem that they feel is going to be the most impactful? Because from their point of view, there might be many problems in the world.
Yes.
So how do they
So they
go about
probably
narrowing the field?
well, the thing I say is you may not even feel it.
Mm.
You can't go through a whole career only doing what you feel. You go through a career doing what you believe is going to make the best use of what you have to offer in order to repair the world. This is one of the reasons I say if you don't know, go talk to your mom, your dad, your
Yeah.
grandparents, your community, right? Look at what is the problem that is most vexing the community that you love and care for. Because what makes for most purpose and meaning in life is not what I do for me, is how I show up in service for others.
Mm,
It's one of the great dilemmas we have in society right now. We have a lot of miserable people who are overly focused on what they want, but there's something in the human character and soul that really resonates around what I can do for others. It's not that you don't do anything for yourself, but you need to have a balance there, right? So, because when you're young, you may not know. And along the way, it'll change. But the point is today, you got to have a focal point. We might be talking in 10 years from now, and you might say, well, I worked on this problem for 10 years. Now I'm ready to work on a different problem. Okay, that's fine. You wouldn't have wasted any time because
mm,
whatever experience, relationships, education you got working on problem one, trust me, at least 50% of that is going to be transferable to problem two, three, whatever. And I would dare say that if one considers that your career is not just your paid job, but it is also your volunteer work, things you do when you work in community organizations and communities of faith, like your career is what you do with all of your time. It's what you do with your boss, your family, the members of your community. I'm telling young people all the time, don't only put on your resume what you get paid to do, put everything on your resume that adds value, whether you got paid for it or not. And definitely use what we call volunteering. So, I've had jobs and my boss might say to me, well, we don't have an opportunity in this job, in this company to let you do this, that, or the other. I got a whole weekend to go work for nonprofits as a volunteer and to say to that nonprofit, I need to get better at presenting. I need to get better at writing. I need to get better at developing proposals, doing various types of analyses. There was a rare nonprofit that is going to say, well, we're not going to let you do that, even though it benefits us because we don't have a payroll for you because they ain't got a payroll to begin with. So some of the most consequential skills I've developed in my career, I developed them in church and in nonprofits, and then brought them back to work and got a raise and a promotion for it. But see, if you're thinking so narrowly that you're only like, my career is the job I get paid for, and God forbid these days you can't even get a job easily, right?
mm.
Right. Yeah.
You got to open up that aperture.
Right.
I've had years in my career where I hated my job, but most of my meaning and purpose came from ministry at church or in a nonprofit. And I was still developing and contributing and serving. And then that paid a dividend later when I got into a different job. So we want to open this up now. We've gotten too narrow, too focused on this. All righty. I went on too long there, but you get my point, right? Okay.
Yes, yes.
All right.
And I actually
Yeah.
I agree with that premise
Hmm.
because you oftentimes when you're volunteering, you develop certain skill sets, right, that you may
Yes.
not be able to develop in the workplace, and
Right.
I think it's about framing how
Yes.
you talk about that work because I'll just
Right.
tell you this quick story. I had a friend of mine, she was looking for a job, and she'd done some incredible work in her volunteer roles,
Yeah.
but people weren't seeing that as added value because it was free work, right?
Yeah.
So, I think it has to do with perception, but
Yes.
how things are framed. So, can you talk a little bit about how you can frame that volunteer work as added value when you're talking to employers?
Yeah, well, one thing, nobody has ever asked me in an interview when I tell them I've achieved an objective. No one ever said, "Did you get paid for that?
Mm,
Oh, you didn't get paid for it? Oh, that doesn't count." No one ever says that. When you're interviewing for a job or you're pitching a proposal, people are focused on the outcome that you got and the value that it added, and no one cares about whether you got paid for it. So no one will know you didn't get paid unless you pitch it as though you didn't get paid.
mhm.
If you pitch it and talked about it like it added value and brought into the world something that was beneficial for the people, the customer, the community that you were executing this for, people are going to feel that and you're going to get credit for it. It's just a shame, though, that we're in a society where we've been socialized to think that it only has value towards, it only has economic value if you got paid for it. And we need to change that. We need to change that.
And time is
So
value. Your personal
Uh,
time has value.
Actually, time is even more value than money. I mean, you can get more money, you can't get more time.
That's true.
right, right. No, that's true.
Yeah.
And when
Oh,
you're
here's another
coach,
thing. Here's another thing real
yeah,
quick. And people get different amounts of money. Everybody gets the same time, at least in a week, 168
Uh,
hours.
yeah,
And most people are squandering the majority of their 168 hours.
yeah,
All righty. I'm gonna
that's a
let that
fact.
stay
That's
right
a
there.
fact.
We're gonna let that okay, come on, Bob.
S- so in your coaching and when
Yeah,
you're providing insights and counsel to young professionals, what are some of the themes that you continue to see pop up in your
yeah,
years of coaching? Is and also lately, what's something that's a more recent hot topic
yeah,
that comes up in coaching?
yeah. So I'm gonna tell you there are a few themes that are coming up very consistently recently that for sure I'm concerned about because I see it so consistently. So one, emotional overwhelm. So many people are that I'm coaching, talking with, mentoring are diminished in their effectiveness because of I'm going to call it a lack of skill in managing and responding to their emotions. That's one. Second, attention challenges. The ability to settle oneself and to focus one's attention and to carry the expectation that attention is a puppy. And we'll talk more about that later. I'm going to leave that right there. Make sure we come back to attention is a puppy, right? And that has to be trained. Nobody gives you trained attention.
Mhm.
And if you don't understand that you have to train it or it's going to be all over the place, then there's a lot of potential that's going to get lost. And then a third one I'll mention is balancing work demands with wellness, right? That's kind of the burnout issue, you might say. And then the other one is cultivating supportive community. It breaks my heart that I hear so many young people talking about this loneliness thing. And I get it. I don't I don't discount the experience of loneliness, but what I'm concerned about is the lack of self-determination, skillfulness, and sense of the ability that people can do something about that. As though being lonely, burning out, struggling with my attention, and being overwhelmed by my emotions is something that is happening to me, and I don't have agency, self determination, and the ability to work with that. And that's what concerns me.
So then, how does someone navigate all this? Right, feeling overwhelmed, uncertain, um,
Yeah.
about their wellness, the puppies, attention puppy syndrome,
Yeah, I'm gonna come back to
and
that.
community.
Well,
Yeah.
well, I'm gonna tell
Overwhelmed.
you
Hey,
that one thing
attack
I
that one. Yeah.
yeah, so one thing I'm gonna say is I think normalizing it helps. What I mean by normalizing it is facing up to the fact that this is the human condition. There's nothing special about me feeling emotionally overwhelmed, unfocused, burnt out, and lonely. I have a technique I use called bibliotherapy. Bibliotherapy is the use of literature as a form of therapy. I'm a regular reader of literature. Maybe a bit too much of it is comic books these days, but it's still literature. I love graphic novels, right? But my point here is that when I engage literature, I come to understand that life is not picking on me. Society is not picking on me. These are common concerns and the experience of being human beings in society in every age. That my ancestors were able to do it and did it pretty well. That's why I'm here, right? As well as your ancestors means that I can do it. And I don't even have it as bad as they had it. And I must do it because I got children and grandchildren who are watching me now. So normalizing it. This is the human condition. And it's workable. It's difficult, but it's workable. Now, going a little bit deeper, there's a whole library of literature and research and techniques and practices that are proven successful in each of these areas that I mentioned, but they require education, practice, supportive community, and measurement. And if you're not willing, like we do this stuff for companies, but we won't do it for ourselves. Because that's what most jobs are, what I just said there, right? You get some knowledge, you make sure you practice consistently, you have peers and mentors and supports around you to help you, and then you measure your progress to make sure that you stay on track. So when it comes to emotional overwhelm, we know that techniques like breath work, right? Managing the breath in the body that impacts the nervous system and gets oxygen into the brain. We know that emotional self-awareness and regulation. I recommend everybody read Daniel Goleman's Emotional Intelligence, right? We can't help how we feel, but the birthright of being a human being is that we can pause and we can respond versus react to how we feel. Viktor Frankl talks about this in Man's Search for Meaning. He says that ability to pause in the face of emotional overwhelm and to choose your response is where all of your growth and freedom exists. Cognitive reframing, keeping people around you, friends, family, peers that help you with your perspective. Because when my reptilian brain gets activated, all of the world becomes this tunnel vision. I need people that are going to help me to open that up again. All right. When it comes to focusing my attention, now let's talk about puppies. So, how do you train a puppy? You put a puppy here, and the puppy runs over there, and you got to get the puppy and put him back. And the puppy goes over there. You got to get the puppy and put it back. You have to be committed. I'm going to have to put this puppy back here 10,000 times. And then what eventually happens? The puppy now begins to realize that, oh, my owner wants me to stay right here. That's how you train. That's what training is. So when I talk to people and they say, well, I don't have my attention's all over the place, I ask them, how are you training your attention? Or is your attention just this puppy running all over the house and you just feel like I'm never going to be able to train this puppy? Right? Another one, self-compassion, doing away with self-judgment. Again, this is the human condition. You ever heard of body doubling? This is one of the hot attention deficit techniques of the last couple of years. We did it all through school. You know how you could always study better with a friend in the library than you could in your room by yourself? There are whole websites, some of you pay for, where you can have another person sit with you on Zoom for an hour to help you focus your attention. There's a whole genre on YouTube called Study With Me. People who have recorded days and months of hours just sitting with books at a table, sometimes with music, sometimes without, just studying. I used it in graduate school. I said, there's no way in the world this is going to work. I'm here to tell you, there's something magical about just seeing another person on a computer screen sitting across from you focused and how it influences your ability to focus. It's called body doubling. Okay, so see, these techniques exist. But if you spend more time saying to yourself, well, this must be something unusual. This is some defect in the society or my brain. I guess there's just not much I can do about this but complain and be frustrated. Then I just want you to know there are a lot of people out there who are really happy you're doing that because you're one less person they have to compete with. But then there are another group of people who need your service. They need your leadership. They need you to step up in the world and use what you have to offer. And they're very sad because they're not going to see your leadership because you're not going to train your attention, work with your emotions. You get my point. This is very, very consequential. And the media goes on and on about, the media kind of helps us with this lack of self-determination is what I'm going to call it. We have to do something different. this society and this world is relying on our leadership. Our ancestors worked and died to put us here to be leaders, right?
No,
All
yeah.
right. So when,
Yeah,
when I start getting self-pity, I think about my grandma. My grandma's right there, rest her soul.
yeah.
Boy, you better get up and sit up straight and get out there and do what we died and sweat it and hurt for you to be able to do. And then I say, yes, ma'am. And then get back to it. All righty. I know I went on too long. I'm gonna stop right there. Okay.
I
All
you're
right.
you're you're actually validating something for me because I started taking this course at MIT called Neuroscience for Business, right? And I'm just on the first module. They released the second one today. And the first
Yeah.
module is literally about how you to be a great leader, you need to eat, sleep, drink, rest, and oxygenate and simplify.
Yep.
And I was like, at first I'm like, what is this? Okay. this is not this is
Right.
not what I thought the class was. All right. I didn't I did not understand.
So, Karen, let me say this. What you
Yeah.
just described there, what we call the 5 pillars of health.
Mhm.
At some point in the course, they're probably going to get into the issue of energy management as more consequential than time management. And you mentioned the 5 pillars. When I teach my leadership classes now, after I talk about soft skills and emotional intelligence and strategy and management and all this other stuff, what I will often then say to the executives, I want you to know that all this theory and practice that I just talked about, if you don't sleep well, eat well, move more, relax better, and have good therapeutic relationships, forget about it. You won't be able to do much with any of the stuff I'm talking about because you won't have the energy to do it.
It's a valid point because I was
Yeah.
like I said, I was going through it. I'm like, I don't know what I signed up for. And then of course they give you homework and you have to reflect. And then I
Yes.
reflected on the lesson. I was like, oh, absolutely. When I
That's it.
don't sleep, right? I don't show up as my best self. I can't make
Right.
meaningful decisions, right? I can't,
Right.
be show up as the best leader that I can be. If I don't eat,
Right.
I'm hangry, I didn't even know by the
Right.
time that you feel thirsty, you're already 3% dehydrated. So you just so
Right.
these things kind of play into it, but you never
Yes.
link them, or I'm gonna say I never link that to leadership. I just link that to myself and
So this is a terribly cynical thing for me to say, but I'm going to say it anyway because I'm 59 now and I'm supposed to be able to say this kind of stuff at my age. I want every young person listening to this session to know no one is going to give you the education to compete with them.
mm,
Let me say it again. No one is going to give you the education to compete with them. That means if you want to compete, you got to go get it. All right, I'm going to leave that right there. All right, now, it's a whole bunch of people who wish that you never learned what Karen just said.
There's someone I'm coaching right now, and we've had multiple sessions over the past few months.
Yeah.
And something that resonated with them recently was when I mentioned that he who controls his emotions wins. It was just something I said in the moment when this young person was talking about how upset they were with a certain situation and making a lot of assumptions and telling a story to themselves based on what they thought versus what they
Yes.
saw.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
and in the book, in the Wise Working Handbook, you talk about self-awareness and the importance of
Yeah.
self-awareness and how it's a true differentiator, especially in the early stages of a career.
Yeah.
Can you speak to self-awareness and what are the kinds of things that you do on a regular basis? It could be habits, it could be reflective practices you have. What do you do to ensure that your self-awareness is top notch and nice and sharp and
Yeah.
front and
Yeah.
center?
Yeah. So a few things. And even as I say this, let me caveat by saying this is going to sound easy when I say it. It's very difficult to practice. The other thing I'm going to say is I have continually failed and been a hypocrite around everything that I'm saying, but I've recommitted and recommitted and recommitted, which has been most of my progress. So now that we got that up front, right? Now, I want everybody going
Disclaimer.
away. I want everybody going away thinking because Craig DeLarge said it must be easy, and he's been doing this every day for the last 30 years. That is not the truth. Okay. Now that said, one, journaling. Journaling. Journaling is a means by which you externalize your otherwise internal psyche. Even if you don't read the journal again, just the fact that you have to write it and you see it on paper just that once gives you a different sort of perspective about whatever it is that's been happening inside of you. Okay. The other, surrounding yourself with an ecosystem of mentors, peers. That's it. I'll leave it at that. Mentors and peers. And especially ones who will call BS on your BS.
Mhm.
And the more power and success you achieve, the more consequential that community will be.
Mm.
Because we as human beings are subject to hubris. And one of the greatest curses of life is success,
How
Why do
so?
you say
right?
that?
How
Why
so?
do you say that?
Because success blinds us.
Mm.
Success is evidence of past failure addressed. People don't improve when they're successful. People improve when they're failing. The success just shows that when you were failing, you hung in there, you learned some lessons, and you kept it moving. But success suffered too long without accountability ruins people. And so keeping people around you who help you with your self-awareness. You familiar with the Johari windows, the four selves? There's the
Yeah.
Craig that I don't know and you don't know. There's the Craig that I know. There's the Craig that neither of us know. There's the Craig that I know, but you don't know. Private Craig. There's the Craig that both of us know. That's the public Craig. But the most consequential Craig is the blind Craig. That's the Craig that you know, but Craig doesn't know. If I'm not getting constant feedback
Mhm.
about my blind side, my blind spots, as my grandmother used to say, you're going to be a fool. So that's a part of self awareness, right? I get, I journal in order to cultivate a private self awareness, and I ask for feedback to get external self awareness. And then the hard part is using it, accepting it and using it because it hurts. I mean, I really only want to be self aware of the part of myself that I'm proud of and happy about. The part of myself that I'm ashamed of, I don't want to know that part of myself, but that's the part of myself that most messes me up. The third thing I would say, but this one is a bit deeper, is Jungian shadow work. So Carl Jung, right? Shadow work. So whenever you witness something in another person that annoys or angers or scares you, that's your shadow. That's a part of yourself that you see in another person and you're repulsed by it.
Oh.
So what I know is when I see something in another person and it annoys me, part of my self-awareness practice is I need to do some journaling and get some feedback. You know, that person talking all the time, talk, 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 talk. They need to shut up and listen sometimes. All right, I've projected that. When I go talk to my friends, they go, well, that's really interesting, Craig. I was just thinking that about you the other day. You need to listen a little bit better. That's why
Hey,
you're annoyed
I get
about it.
annoyed a lot, so I have a lot of reflection, okay?
But we all do. But we all do, Karen.
I don't know if I like
Karen,
this one.
no, people, no, this is a hard one. This is a very hard one. But Bob asked the question. He asked about how do you get self-aware?
Yeah. Mhm.
Pay attention to your shadow. Keep people around you who you can get feedback from. Journal.
Can we talk a little bit more about the
That's
journaling, like, really quickly? 'Cause it's the it's the one lesson in the same course that I was like, "Mm, yeah, whatever." And so This is a sign
Okay.
that I need to, like, focus. Alright, so
Okay.
just for a hot second with the journaling. So with the journal, what do you need to focus on? Why is it so important? And just in a tactical way, is journaling better if you're physically writing, or for younger people who are on their phones, is that a method that is equally beneficial as well?
Well, there's no universal answer to that.
Yeah.
What I would say is that one needs to experiment with various types of journaling and then observe what combination of journalistic methodologies work best for them over time, right? So the experimentation is more important than the determination, is what
Mm,
I would say,
mhm,
right? Um, and you're correct. I mean, these days you can write or you can type or you can speak. There's actually graphic journaling where you draw pictures.
mhm. Okay.
Yeah, which is a part of play therapy, right? Because kids can't speak,
Mm,
so play therapists ask them to draw pictures. You can do that for yourself as a grown person, and that actually touches the child in us that is pre-verbal.
mm.
So you get insights that are before you had language to articulate things, right? Okay. Um, what else did I want to say about journaling? Oh, morning pages. So I forget the author's name. I could look it up quickly. She wrote the book The Artist Within. And she has a technique in her book called morning pages, which
Mhm.
is probably one of the most popular creative expression journaling techniques in the society. So I highly recommend it. The point is that first thing when you wake up in the morning, while the soul is still fresh, before you've taken on the burdens of the day,
Mm.
you want to give the soul the opportunity to kind of have its say.
Uh,
And the point
Uh,
is to just write. Don't think, write. Right. She's like, write. I think she said, write for 5 minutes without moving the pen off the page or away or putting it down. Just write. Whatever is coming up, whatever is flowing, you're just letting the soul have its say, have its say, have its say, and then leave it. Then go back and read it later. You'll be amazed what just comes out of the end of your pen because you've not trapped yourself in the logical, rational, guarded function of the psyche.
mm.
And then
I
rip it up and throw it away so nobody else finds it.
there was one particular time where I was feeling very overwhelmed at work,
Hmm.
and my manager at the time, he saw that I was overwhelmed, and we talked
Yeah.
about it, and he encouraged me to do something that's almost like journaling,
Yeah.
which was to write down everything I'm concerned about, every project, every interim deliverable, anything that's getting in the way of me feeling calm, cool, collected. And
Yes.
so I probably sat down and wrote for close to an hour and
Yeah.
filled up, just page after page. It was not
Yes.
only incredibly
Yes.
therapeutic, but it also helped me
Yes.
identify the priorities, right? The critical
Yes.
items that are urgent, but also more importantly, sometimes the critical items that are not as urgent, but need time and dedication to correct or
Yes. Yeah.
get on
The
course.
important. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I completely agree with the journaling, and I've done it on and off for years. And a lot of times when I was stuck, I would just think of, what am I is the rose. I think of, what am I,
Yeah.
what's a thorn of the day? What's something that wasn't so great, either with my
Yeah.
own performance or something that happened, the thorn, the bud,
Yes.
what's something that is coming
Hmm.
soon that I'm excited about, and what's the flower? What's the good
Yeah.
news of the day, or something that I can look at and feel great about or proud about.
Yeah.
But I completely agree with
Yeah.
your advice on journaling.
Yeah, this is the care of the soul. And what it is, we're in a society where we've abused our souls and we see the effects of it all around us, right? And the soul is quiet and shy. It's not going to jump up and scream, but when it bursts out, when it gets fed up, you end up with a society like we see right now. By the way, a couple of references. Julia Cameron, The Artist's Way, is the morning pages, right? Highly recommend that book. And then Bob, which you talked about, is the brain dump, which
That's
is
right.
David Allen and Getting Things Done, which I also highly recommend. Karen, I'm sorry, I'm kind of a bit of an encyclopedia when it comes to these
Oh, that's great.
when it comes to these techniques, though. Okay, so you got those.
Don't apologize. Look, I'm getting a lesson along with everybody, all
Yeah,
the listeners, so
yeah.
I come here to
Another
learn.
thing I want to say, no one should reach the age of 25. That gives you 3 years after you finished undergrad. Because I know up to 22, you ain't got time because you studying. This is what I hear from people. I'm too busy in college. Okay. All right. You got 3 years after 22. You must read and internalize Stephen Covey's The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. All righty. I'm done.
And why is that? Put a bow on that. Why?
Because it is the 7 habits of highly effective people, right? You don't want to be people. You don't want to be effective people. You want to be highly effective people. And it's going to take you the rest of your life to practice it. So you may as well get early. You may as well get started early as possible.
Craig, when did you get started?
Oh, I got started. Wow, now I'm thinking, get started with what? Get started with 7 habits?
No, I mean,
I was gonna say I got started on my grandmom's knee down in Pensacola,
ah.
Florida.
Well, I guess when we started the conversation, we talked about, you figuring out your life's purpose. So,
Oh,
did you figure that out early on or is it through
I
your experiences that you've come and you've created the Wise
okay,
Working Handbook and
yeah. Looking back now, 40, 50 years, I realize now that I did have it figured out, but I didn't know I had it figured out. So
Mm,
I was no less anxious, worried, fearful, and concerned. The
mm,
things that helped me to gain confidence in that, I remember in my 20s, this is when I read the book, What Color is Your Parachute? That's the other one that everybody should buy and read, by Richard Bowles. And he says, as you seek your purpose, go talk to your family and ask them, what are the things that you've been good at since you were a baby?
mm.
When I went and asked my grandparents and my parents, they said, well, you've always been a teacher. When you were 4 years old on the playground, you had kids sitting down trying to teach them something. My father said, you started teaching Sunday school in middle school.
What? Okay.
Yeah. hmm When I went to college, I was a tutor. And yeah, even during my corporate career, Bob, you remember I was always going and teaching at the university at night and weekends.
Yes. Mhm.
So what it is that, again, self-awareness that comes from the community. The community has watched more of me than I've watched of myself.
Mm,
So my discovery, I would say, of my purpose has been an continuously emerging, evolving thing or entity. But most of the time, I've felt confused, overwhelmed, unsure. This must be a mistake. That didn't work the way I wanted. So that's obviously a sign that it's a mistake. I feel so blessed that I've reached a point in life where I'm like, yeah, that was it all along. I think it was the poet E.B. White who says, we look forward with hope, we look backwards with understanding. There you go. That's life. That's
and I
life.
like hearing you say that sometimes you felt like you weren't following a path, and you talked
Not,
a little bit earlier about recommitting, which is
no,
also
Karen, not sometimes. You misheard me. Not sometimes, most of the time. most of the time, I have felt out of sorts, unsure. But I'm also listening to people around me who said, Craig, I know you feel that way, but I want you to know what we see as your community, keep at it. So I'm
uh,
like, okay, I guess I'll just keep at it. Right. Yeah. Yeah. I
Hey,
love the
Karen.
Brooks pause. I love the Brooks pause. That's the Brooks,
I thought
that's the
Bob was
Brooks
stuck.
pause.
I thought Bob was stuck.
She thought I was frozen.
That's the Brooks pause.
Yeah.
No, 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 no.
Yeah.
No, that's I think it's reflection is really important, right? And I love like, I think this
Mhm.
kinda links back to another guest really talking about having, like, your personal board of directors, which can seem very formal,
Yes,
but at the same time, you're like you said, it's like your mentorship, it's people who see you how you don't see yourself,
that's
and
right.
I really like that you're like, "Hey, what was I always good at?" So I'm thinking about myself right now, right? Like, I need to ask
Yeah,
a few people this question, right? 'Cause
yeah,
like I have my period of success, and then you get to a point of success, and you reflect, and you're like, "I wanna keep improving," like, that's not enough, right? But
yeah.
what is it? What is my true purpose? Am I living my true purpose? So, I think that's an ongoing question. What?
I want to submit that there is no true purpose.
There isn't?
Nope.
That makes it
And I
easier
think
for me.
I
Alright,
think I
good.
think that I think that there are a lot of people who have gotten hung up in their lives and made themselves miserable because of this envisioned kind of true purpose or my true self. And while that's not entirely invalid, I think that the poison is in the dose. So there's a dose of preoccupation with true purpose and true self that paralyzes you. And you're not getting anything done in the world because you're like, well, I'm going to just sit here until I understand what my true purpose and self is. And
Yeah,
that's not serving. But then there's another dose of it, which is, well, let me just keep moving and serve and work with what I know, trusting that I'm either going to discover something or I'm going to make it up. And most of it is making it up.
okay.
I have a lot of available purposes and identities and selves, but I've kind of narrowed it down to a few that I feel great satisfaction in. And I work with that. And that gets me out of bed in the morning. And I build on that. And then
Mhm.
I get feedback that says, yeah, yeah, you're good at that. Let me share this other thing with you. And I'm trying to keep an eye on time here. One of the most effective questions that I've ever asked, I think I've asked you this, Bob, for feedback when I've had what I'll call purpose ambiguity, like vertigo. I don't quite know what I should be doing. Here's the question. What is the activity where I most effortlessly add the most value?
Yeah, yeah.
I remember putting that question out to about 100 of my colleagues once. I sent it as an email and it was a note on LinkedIn Messenger. I didn't do the public thing, right? And I was amazed. The feedback I got, generally people said, Craig, you most effortlessly add the most value when you are performing as guess what? A teacher and a coach.
Mm.
They're like, you're good at other things. You're a manager and a speaker, and like you're good at a lot of things, but you said effortless and most value, you need to teach and coach. So I want you to know that it was a point sometime in my 40s where I thought to myself, Lord, I'm getting too tired for this.
Mhm.
But I still got bills to pay, right? So we got to get into play mode. And so I then began putting a lot more energy into my play where it's effortless.
Mm.
Where as a child, I am in the kingdom of heaven. Now, granted, I was in my 40s. I had spent the prior 20 years building the foundation. This is what I say to young people. You spend your 20s and 30s and your early 40s building a foundation of experience and results and relationships and reputation and education. And then on that foundation, when you get tired a bit later and you say, well, I want to play more versus work more, that foundation then gives you greater permission, greater confidence to do that. The other thing I tell young people, please don't get into the lifestyle trap, which is you're going to go out here and spend every dime that you have. You're not going to save none of it. You're not going to invest none of it. And then you're going to be sitting around 40, 50, and you don't have any kind of portfolio or reserve that gives you a freedom to do different things with your time. Because you're in a society that wants to suck up every dime you make on something. You got to resist that temptation or you're going to be enslaved for the rest of your life. So I tell people, put a cap on that lifestyle thing. Let your being somebody not be so much what you drive, where you live, and what you wear, but how you serve. And then you'll be free to serve more and play. All righty. I don't know who needed to hear that or where that came from, because y'all didn't ask for all of that, but there you got it.
I needed to hear it.
Okay. Okay.
I got my coaching session today. All right.
Okay, now I'm here to tell you. I tell people, I'm here to sell you my failure, right? Whatever I failed at, I want to sell it to you so you can succeed. All righty.
So, Bob, is it time for my top
I-
takeaways?
Yeah, I think it is. What are today's key takeaways, Karen?
Your career is not just your paid job, but also your volunteer work. It's
Yeah.
what you do with all of your time. Uh, Everyone gets different amounts of money, but the same amount of time. I really like that you talked about the emotional overwhelm, the
Yeah.
attention challenges, balance, and cultivating a social community. And
Mhm.
these are all things that you need to put into proper practice and
Yeah.
measure and get feedback from. No one is going to give you the education. Wait, no one's going to give you the education. I know what you said though. I didn't write it
To
right.
compete with
To
them.
compete
To
with them.
compete with them. That's
To
right.
compete with them. I just put with them.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
Exclamation marks. Okay.
I want to win. I want to win. So you stay over on the side with no education.
Yes, exactly. Recommitment is still continuous progress.
Right on.
Yes.
Um, successful people improve when they are failing. Success without accountability ruins people. And I'll end with this one. Get constant feedback about your blind spots. If not, in the immortal words of your grandmother, you're going to be a fool.
That is lovely. Yes, that's what she would say. She'd say that to me all the time. You're gonna be a fool.
That's great.
What
And
I
and
miss, Bob?
and
What I miss?
well, I really appreciated all the discussion around self-awareness
Mm-hmm.
and how you build self-awareness and asking for
Yeah.
feedback and knowing things like the Johari window and that one window
Yeah.
pane where others have insights on you and you should probably go out and seek them
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
look for ways to improve and to understand how you're seen by your community and your coworkers, and journaling. Right,
Yeah.
whether and journaling is a great way to not only reflect on what's working, what's not working. It also can
Mhm.
help with techniques like brain dump, where you're feeling overwhelmed and you just write everything down. That was great. Thank you, Karen. And one last question for Mr. DeLarge. We usually wrap up the show with this. It's my favorite question. What's your why? Why do you do what you do?
Oh, this is lovely. To be of loving service, to honor my ancestors, and to prepare the way for the children.
That's
Doing it for the children.
yeah.
Because as the famous South Asian poet Tagore said, one will understand the meaning of life when they recognize the trees they are planting whose shade they will never sit under.
There it is. Kaboom. Craig, thanks for
All
love
right.
it. Thank you so much for being part of Momentum
Yes.
Now. All your support
Thanks
for
for the privilege.
MVP over the years. It's been fantastic. All your contributions and writing the Wise Working Handbook. I really, really encourage those who are in the early stages of their career. I've purchased multiple copies, and
Thank you,
there's
Bob.
some wonderful gems in there. So thank you, Craig.
Yeah. You're inspiring me to think about, I need to write an update is what I need to do, actually. I need to work on that.
Get on that.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. You got it.
Thanks, Craig.
Thanks so
All
much,
right.
Craig.
You guys be well. Thank you again for the privilege.